Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to PAC 12, 2 weeks of PAC 12. I am so excited to get started here. Sorry I didn't upload yesterday. I planned to upload yesterday and start the week yesterday, but my ear infection got way worse. That's unfortunate. But we're here. We're doing this Thursday to next Thursday to next Thursday. Those will be the 2 weeks of the PAC 12. PAC 12 is a very interesting conference. They're one of the weakest conferences, if not the weakest. They haven't had a person in the playoffs for a little while. I think the last one was Washington in 2016. So the Pac-12 is looking for a new team to kind of step up and be that playoff caliber team that the Pac-12 needs to assert themselves as a quality, Power 5 conference, and show that they can compete with power conferences, not like the Big 12 or the SEC, those are the big boys, but like the Big 10 and the ACC. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Off at number 12, coming in at last place, this isn't going to be much of a shocker. It is the Oregon State Beavers, the most unintimidating mascot you could have for a team, I guess, except for a team like the Snails or the Turtles. But as far as in the Pac-12, they're certainly the least intimidating. I mean, maybe Ducks is less intimidating. Thinking about it, Pac-12 doesn't actually have that many intimidating names, especially in the state of Oregon. But I'm rambling on. Let's get back on the topic of Oregon State. If I'm going to give advice to your team, they went 2-10 last year. Just give them patience, give them time, because Oregon State is in the same state as Oregon, obviously, and Oregon is the much more elite program from every aspect. So you need to find yourself a good coach and just take your time. It'll be 5 years before you can even start talking about some success and bowl games and all that. I know it's going to be painful. Just be patient and watch some progress be made over a long period of time, and then maybe you can have a couple years of success. But honestly, 7-5, 8-4 is probably your ceiling. Your floor is 0-12, so you're just not that great of a program, honestly. I mean, you're in the same state as Oregon, which is very unfortunate. Oregon is a dynamite program with, right now, one of the best quarterbacks in not only the Pac-12 but in the world. As far as college football goes. So I think you just need to give some patience to that staff and the organization and the program. Just give them some time to try to get their stuff together. So coming in at number 11 is the University of California. It's very ironic because they are the worst team in California. Stanford, UCLA, and USC are all better than them by quite a lot. But, I mean, California is just, they should be at the top of California because they are California. That'd be like Florida being at the bottom of Florida or Georgia being at the bottom of Georgia. It's just, again, I'm going to give you kind of the same advice for Oregon State. Just give them some time. California, again, basically they need to do what Oregon State does, except I think they have a much higher ceiling. I think California went like something like 3-9. I haven't done a ton of research into it. They weren't very good last year. They haven't been very good in quite a while. But if they just give them some time, USC's kind of going downhill. The USC can fix it if they get... I'm not going to reveal what they should do. I'll do that once I get to USC. UCLA is on the up. Stanford's always great. So your ceiling may not be as high as it should be. But, I mean, if you give them some time, I'm sure they can make a lot of progress. And California can get back to at least being a decent program. But for right now, they come in at number 11. So coming in at number 10, they're much better in state than like California and Oregon State. They're just very, very average. So they're solid. They're okay. Their ceiling's extremely low, but their floor is actually pretty high. I think they'll be kind of a 5-7, 6-6 team every single year until they get like some great coach or a standout quarterback. I think for the most part, they're just a solid program, which is fine. If you Colorado fans are good for that, I mean, it's just, they don't have much of a ceiling, do they? They can't recruit that well. They're just a solid, average program. Maybe they can upset a team like Washington or Oregon, maybe once in every 5 or 10 years. That'll be pretty much your ceiling. But Colorado's just average, and I think that lands them right at the number 10 spot. In comes Arizona State. I think they're kind of like Colorado, except a little bit better. Colorado's kind of like in the lower tier of average. Arizona State's kind of in the middle tier to higher tier of average. That, like Colorado, kind of just stays around 5-7, 6-6, while Arizona State stays around 6-6 and 7-5. So they're better than Colorado, just by 1 or 2 games a year. Arizona's on the up, so that bumps down Arizona State a little bit. I know some people are going to disagree and think I should have Arizona State above Arizona. That just comes down to I think Kevin Sumlin's better than whoever Arizona State has as their coach. That's why I think that Arizona's a little bit better than Arizona State, but Arizona State's not bad. They make a bowl game 3 out of 5 years, and they'll be 8-4, maybe 1 out of every 6 or 7 years. That's pretty much your ceiling, which isn't bad, it's just not great. So that's why you get landed here at the number 9 spot. So coming in at number 8 is Arizona. Sorry if you can hear this super loud truck. Please, go by at the perfect time, but let's get back on topic. Sorry guys, I'm just really, excited for the Pac-12. It's a super exciting conference since they haven't had a playoff caliber team in quite a while. But let's get back on Arizona coming in at number 8. The reason that they are above Arizona State is just Kevin Sumlin. Kevin Sumlin's had experience in the SEC, so I think he's going to be pretty good in the Pac-12. Again, Arizona State and Arizona are very, very similar, not just because they come from the same state. It just all comes down to Kevin Sumlin. I think it's a little bit better. If Arizona fans are patient, I think Kevin Sumlin can take Arizona to consistent bowl games, maybe once in a while, could be in contention for the Pac-12, maybe go 8-4 a couple years. Their ceiling isn't super high, but I think whatever their ceiling is, Kevin Sumlin will achieve it. I think he's a very solid coach, a very underrated coach. Their highlight of last year was they crushed Oregon, I think 44-10 or something crazy like that. That was pretty much the highlight of their season last year. I think they'll be able to make a bowl game this year. I don't think they made one last year. I think they went 5-7, missing out by, I think, a 1-point game against Arizona State, which was unfortunate for Arizona fans, but I have no doubt in my mind Kevin Sumlin has great plans for the future of Arizona football. So coming in at number 7 is the USC Trojans, by far the most controversial ranking on my list. I know USC fans are spamming the dislike button, spamming the comment button to tell me how much of an idiot and clueless I am. And let's just hear me out here. USC, I think, has great potential. Right now, they're at 7. That's not to say they could be at number 1 or number 2 in a couple years. They might be. Honestly, I have confidence that they will be. I think they could be the best Pac-12 team in years to come if they get Urban Meyer. For USC, I think the best thing for them is to tank this year, go 4-8, 3-9, 5-7, miss out on a bowl game, fire their coach, get Urban Meyer to come in here, fix it up really, really quickly. Urban Meyer loves doing that. It's not the most challenging job in the world. USC takes control of the Pac-12 and gets back into playoff contention. But for right now, they're missing Sam Darnold. I think they have an overrated coach. That's why they weren't great last year. I think they actually missed out on a bowl game last year. They went 5-7, I believe. They lost to UCLA in the last week of the season, which was unfortunate for USC fans. I don't really care. But again, if they can get Urban Meyer as their coach and fire their overrated coach, I can't even remember his name, Clay something, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section below, you USC fans. But again, I think USC will rise back to the top, but it'll take a couple years. So I am super high on UCLA, definitely compared to some other people, for one specific reason. That's not because USC's kind of going down. I think USC will be back in a couple years. That's not the concern. It's not because Stanford has such a challenging recruiting level that they can't recruit at the level that they desire. That's not it. It's not because California is the most underachieving program in the history of college football. That's not it. It's not because they can recruit well. It's not because of the talent that they have. It's not because of the facilities, the stadium, any of that. Is because one person, Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, I'm placing all my chips on the table for Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is amazing. He took over Oregon, dominated. UCLA, he actually put in some progress last year. But again, Chip Kelly was good at Philadelphia. was good at Oregon. He's good everywhere he goes, and I don't think UCLA will be any different. It may be more challenging, and it may take them a couple years longer, but UCLA is on the comeback. I think they're definitely going to have a winning record this season. Maybe even go 8-4, something like that. But UCLA, I think, is a sleeping giant with Chip Kelly at the helm. So cracking the top 5 is Washington State. They were so close to making the Pac-12 championships, and I think they probably would have won the Pac-12 title, but Washington was able to sneak in and take it from them, and they were actually able to beat Utah. So I think if Washington State's able to pull off the win against Washington, that they beat Utah, and maybe they even end up in a college football playoff conversation. But they would have ended up in the Rose Bowl worst-case scenario last year. So Washington State can recruit quarterbacks extremely well. I mean, they had the guy this year with the mustache. I can't remember, just with the mustache. And they had Luke Falk, I believe, the year before. So they can recruit quarterbacks extremely well. I'm not sure there's a quarterback right now that I have huge faith in, but I think it's just a matter of time before they get their next Luke Falk or their next mustache dude. Sorry, I can't remember his name. But again, Washington State, I think, will have a noticeable dip. They'll still be decent, go 8-4, 7-5, or something like that. But I think they'll be back in Pac-12 contention fairly soon. So coming in at number 4 is Stanford. Stanford, when they had Bryce Love, I believe was his name. I feel like it's not Bryce Love. I think it is. As you can tell, I have a lot of research to do on the Pac-12. Pac-12 is probably the least conference that I'm knowledgeable about, so I'm going to do a ton of research before I come back with more games. But as a whole, I think they're a good team. It's just the academic standing prevents them from being an elite team, from being in playoff contention. And honestly, I think their ceiling is probably 9-3, 10-2 sometimes. You know, a Pac-12 championship, a Rose Bowl championship is their ceiling. They're never going to be national champions. That's just the way it is. Their academic challenges are just too difficult. It's ridiculous numbers. I mean, you can go look it up or watch some of those analysts. But it's ridiculous how much challenges they have, and it's remarkable that they're as good as they are. I have so much respect for the Stanford program and their coach and their staff. So that's why I'm bumping up Stanford above Washington State and placing them here at number 4. So coming in at number 3 is the Utah Utes, I believe. I don't know what that is. But Utah is just a very stable, solid program. Their ceiling's probably 9-3, maybe 10-2 if they have a standout quarterback. But again, they're just a stable program. I think they'll be in contention for the Pac-12 again. They were the runner-up last year. They lost an incredibly close game against Washington. I think it came down to a controversial call of some sorts. I may be wrong. But they were very close to being the Pac-12 winners and going to a Rose Bowl game. But again, I think they're going to be about 9-3. 8-4 would be a down year for them. I think they'll be about 9-3, definitely in contention with teams like Stanford, Washington, and Oregon. So coming in at number 2, the Pac-12 champions from last year, and in my opinion, the face of Pac-12, it's the Washington Huskies. Their coach has lifted this program on his back and has done a fabulous job there and has done it with class. They made the Rose Bowl last year, the Fiesta Bowl the year before, and the College Football Playoff the year before. So Washington is just so stable. They're so consistent, and they're so fabulous. They're no flashy program. They did lose Jake Browning, but they are getting Jacob Eason. So I think that might actually be an improvement, and they might actually improve. So I think if you're a betting person, which I am not, I am not recommending betting. I am not. You don't even have to officially bet. I'm not promoting betting. I'm just saying if I had to make a pick, if you're in even a league of some kind for predictions, just anything like that, I'd predict Washington to win the Pac-12. They're just so consistent. They're so safe. They're so they're just a class act for the Pac-12, and they are the face of Pac-12, and they will continue to be for a couple years to come. Coming in at number 1 is the Oregon Ducks. I think they are finally back on top in the Pac-12. I think Washington's the more complete team by a mile than Oregon. I know what you're saying. Oregon only went 7-5 last year. They didn't meet the expectations. Why is Oregon number 1? It comes down to their quarterback, Justin Herbert. I think he's the best QB in the country that will be eligible to be drafted. More than Tua, more than Fromm. I'm a huge believer in Justin Herbert. He probably would have been first selected last year. Definitely in the top 10 last year if he would have come out last year, so I can only imagine what great things he'll do for the Oregon Ducks program this year. I think Oregon's the only legit playoff team on Pac-12. They don't have much of a ceiling. I mean, their ceiling goes to... That's not an insult. That's a promotion because their ceiling can go from a 15-0 season with Justin Herbert. And I just think that I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert. I just think he knows what he's doing, and he's going to elevate this Oregon Ducks program to maybe even a playoff berth and probably a Pac-12 championship. So Oregon is our number one team. So Pac-12 is a very historic conference. I mean, just look at Oregon, Washington, the teams in California like Stanford, UCLA, USC, obviously. They just have so much history to them. But I think that their ceiling is just kind of low. I mean, I'm not sure they have a legit playoff contender besides Oregon. I mean, maybe Washington, but I don't think Jacob Eason can do that. I think he's a good quarterback, not a great one. And I'm not sure Justin Herbert has the talent around him to take the Oregon Ducks to the playoffs. So it might be another year where the Pac-12 does not have a team in the running for the playoffs, which is unfortunate for Pac-12 fans. But I mean, it's a fun conference to watch. A lot of history. A lot of 80-year-olds and 75-year-olds watch the Pac-12, and some of the younger people who love Oregon and Washington and all that like Pac-12, so it appeals to a lot of people. It's a very popular conference. Nobody really hates the Pac-12. I mean, people hate the SEC, they hate the ACC. Pretty much people hate every single conference except for the Pac-12. I mean, people hate the Big 12 for lack of defense. They hate the Big 10 just because they have a lot of controversial teams. Ohio State. People hate ACC because they think they're overrated, and people hate SEC because they keep on dominating, and people think the playoff committee gives them too much credit. So Pac-12 is just a very likable conference that has kind of a low ceiling. That's pretty much Pac-12 in the nutshell. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The 2 weeks of the Pac-12 starts now. I might be uploading a schedule preview tonight, or those could be starting tomorrow. My goal is to upload one tonight. I'm not going to reveal which team that'll be. But without further ado, this has been your boy Fanatic. I hope you guys have a fabulous day. If you guys are a Pac-12 fan, get excited. There's a lot of Pac-12 content coming your way. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. You will find my schedule previews in the playlist titled Schedule Previews. Make sure to subscribe. Have an amazing day. I'm rambling, so I'm just going to end the video here, and peace.